ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في قرآنه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا صدق الله العظيم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الخلق كلهم عيال الله فأحب الخلق إلى الله أنفعهم لعياله أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. رواه الإمام البيهقي في شعب الإيمان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. My dear respected brothers, sisters, and elders, if we look at the time that we're living in the current climate of the Muslim Ummah, and we compare that to the previous generations, we realize that we're living in absolute materialism. Anytime a service is rendered, anytime a favor is granted, the thinking is always, what is the monetary compensation for this? How can I benefit from this, or how will I benefit from this financially? Whenever we're helping someone, whenever we're doing anything good, the thinking is always, how much money am I going to make from this? How will I benefit from this? And so this mentality has infected us such that even in the educational system, before you had fields of study, you had areas of study, and they were based on insaniya. These are the fields that will develop humanity, or that will progress humanity. This will raise us as a nation. This will make us better as a species. You had ta'aleem for insaniya. And now we have ta'aleem only for ma'ash. Universities are telling us, you do this degree, you're going to get this job and your salary will be such. You have this skill set, your employer will increase your salary by this much. You study this and you will make this much money. This is a shift, a transition in the educational system, which is indicative of a mental shift at large. That how we used to think versus how we think now. Back then, people only studied just so they could benefit humanity, just so they could progress humanity. Let me give humanity something that will further them in progress. But now we think, let me just study something and I'll have the biggest paycheck, I'll have the nicest house and car, and that's it. That's my end goal. That's what we value as, that's what we define as success. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, فَمَنْ زُحْزِهَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ. That the successful person who has been entered into Jannah and freed or saved from the hellfire, فَقَدْ فَازَ. This person is indeed successful. This is what success really is. And now it's become such that anytime we're doing anything for anyone, we're thinking, how much money can I extract out of this person? How much money can I make from this person? We've all heard when a person went to a lawyer and said, how much do you charge? And he said, I charge $1,000 for 3 questions. He said, wow, that's expensive, isn't it? He said, yes, it is. And what's your 3rd question? So the first 2 questions were done. Give me a 3rd question, and that's it. Your $1,000 are done. You want to ask more? Give me another $1,000. But the point is, there needs to be some parts of our lives that we're doing solely for the purpose, for the pleasure of Allah. And now there's nothing wrong with compensation. There's nothing wrong with remuneration. There's nothing wrong with charging for services. This is how an economy works. This is how we live in our life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget what we have provisioned for you in the dunya. Don't forget that. That is your right. And for a lot of us, it is an obligation. We have families, we have children. We need to feed them. It's our responsibility to make money. Even if you didn't have a responsibility, even if someone provided a service just because I want the money, there's nothing wrong with that. This is our haqq. This is our right. That if you're providing a service, you're allowed to charge for that. But it shouldn't be like this in every part of our lives. The way we need to gather money, we need to gather currency so that we can live comfortably in this life. We need to think about our life in the hereafter as well. We need to gather currency for that as well. Many of us, we have retirement accounts. And every month we're spending a couple $100 or maybe even more, and we're putting it in those retirement accounts. And why? So that after 62 and a half years of age or 65 years of age, or whatever the age limit may be, I can live comfortably. So you're putting money aside right now in an account that you don't have access to without stiff penalties. Why? So that I can live my retirement in peace. When I retire, I don't have to work, I don't have to make money, and I'll have access to these funds, and then I can live out the rest of my days. And we don't even know if we're going to be alive by 65. We don't even know if we're going to be alive to benefit from this money. But still, the financially responsible thing to do is to set aside 5%, 10%, 20% of your paycheck and put it into a 401k or an IRA or whatever investment account so that you have money for retirement. That's the fiscally responsible thing to do. And even though you don't know if you're going to be able to use that, you don't know if you're going to be alive. The graveyards have small graves and they have large graves. There's no guarantee any of us will live until the age of retirement. And there's no guarantee any of us will live until tomorrow. But we're doing the financially responsible thing to do is to save for after retirement. Similarly, the spiritually responsible thing to do, the intelligent thing to do, is to save for that account as well, is to save for the hereafter as well. So that we have currency in the hereafter, so that we have balance in the hereafter, so that in the hereafter we can say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look, the time you gave me on this earth, I spent it in your worship, and now I'm here to cash in on my investment. And Allah with His mercy will enter us into Jannah. But where there needs to be a few actions a day, a few actions a week, a few actions a month even, that we do only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We expect no reward for it, we expect no compensation for it, we don't even expect credit for it. But we're doing it solely for the benefit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for this we need to rectify our intentions. That's why in majority of the hadith books, the majority of the hadith compilations, the first hadith almost always is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said actions are according to their intentions. And why do the muhaddithin, why do the hadith scholars put this hadith in the beginning of all the hadith books? Because they know a student is coming and he's going to open my book and he's going to read the hadith in it. This is a very good thing, but make sure your intention is pure. Make sure your intention is not for worldly benefit. Make sure your intention is solely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to learn what my messenger said, what my prophet said, so that I can better worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we rectify our intention. And what should our intention be? A few actions. It can be something small, it can be something big, but I'm doing this only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I don't care if someone finds out or not. I don't want credit, I don't want anything. I just want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm doing it only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the best forms of this is what's called passive income in the financial world, where you don't do anything, you make a one-time investment, and that's it. For the rest of your life, you reap the benefit of that investment. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man sanna sunnatan hasanatan fa'umila biha ba'dahu kana lahu ajruha wa mithlu ujurihim min ghayri an yunqasa min ujurihim shay'a." Imam Ibn Majah rahmatullah alayhi narrates this hadith. He said, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever starts a good sunnah, a good practice, a good habit, فَعُمِلَ بِهَا, and it becomes customary. Other people see him and they start practicing this as well. He will, every single person that does this practice looking at him, the first person will get the reward. For example, there's certain groups of people in Pakistan, in my own country, and the majority of them are businessmen. And what do? Whatever profit they have for the month, whether it's $10 or $10 billion, they put 10% to charity. Whether to a mosque, to a school, to the poor, to whatever. They donate it to charity. This is a practice that they have. And sons see their fathers doing this. Daughters see their mothers doing this. And it's been going on from generation to generation. Now imagine the first person that thought of this. You know what? I'm going to put 10% of my income, of my profit, to charity. Every single person that put $1 towards charity after that, well, he will get that reward. Right? That person is probably dead by now. Right? He's probably dead, but in his grave, he is seeing his balance going up. He is seeing my good deeds are going up, and he's dead. He's not doing anything. But he's getting the reward for it. Why? Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that you start a good habit, you start a good custom, and people act on it, whatever reward they get, you will get that reward too. And the people who do the good deeds, their rewards will not lessen in any way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will double, triple the reward, and you get some, and the person doing the action does some. This hadith was mentioned by Imam Ibn Majah, rahmatullah alayh. It was narrated by him. My teacher taught me Ibn Majah, the hadith book. His teacher taught it to him, and his teacher taught it to him. And then you go on, and then you get to Imam Ibn Majah, taught this hadith book to his student. And then Imam Ibn Majah, he says, Muhammad ibn Yahya told me this hadith. And Muhammad ibn Yahya, he says, Abu Na'im told me this hadith. And you go on, and he says, Abu Juhayfa told me this hadith. And Abu Juhayfa, he says, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, whoever starts a good habit towards the end, until the end. So now every single link in this chain, every time someone acts on this hadith, if my mentioning this hadith today inspires even just one person to go out and do something good, to start a good habit, every single link in this chain will be getting reward for it. A lot of them have been dead for over 1,000 years, but they will be getting the reward for it. This is what you call passive income. This is what you call, after you're dead, your bank balance is still going up. In the hereafter, you did one small good deed. You heard a hadith from one person and you narrated to another person. And because of your narrating that hadith, someone was inspired to do something. And you will be getting the reward for that. And then he inspired someone else, and then he inspired someone else. You'll be getting the reward for all of those people. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables us, that we live our lives in such a way that we're able to make currency for this world, but more importantly, we're able to have currency for the hereafter. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables us to have such investments, the fruition of which we will get in the hereafter. And we will be happy with those investments. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most importantly, will be happy with those investments. And He will enter us into the paradise with His mercy. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables us to act upon what we have heard. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the Quran stories. And the reason He mentions these stories is not just to help us sleep at night. These are not just stories you tell your children to help them fall asleep. These are stories that He tells us so that we may hear them and we may act upon them. And one such story is of Dhul Qarnayn. In Surah Al-Kahf, He is mentioned, Dhul Qarnayn. There's debate whether he was a prophet or whether he was a saint, a pious person. But regardless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Inna makkanna lahu fil ard, that we gave him power and we gave him bounties and we gave him resources in this world. And it's a long story, but towards the end, he goes to a dwelling, or he goes to a nation that they're between two mountains. And they say, قَالُوا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ, إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض فهل نجعل لك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا. They said, O Dhul Qarnayn, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, they are mufsiduna fil ard, they spread chaos in the land. فَهَلْ نَجْعَلُ لَكَ خَرْجًا, we'll establish a tax for you. In other words, we'll pay you. عَلَىٰ أَن تَجْعَلَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ سَدًّا. In return, you make a wall for us between them. We'll pay you, you make a wall for us. How did he respond? I mean, this is a good contract. Government contracts, they're very hard to get and they're very lucrative. But how did he respond? قَالَ مَا مَكَّنِّي فِيهِ رَبِّي خَيْرٌ. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled me with, what Allah has given me is better than what you can give me. فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. So I don't need your money, just help me out physically. This is a live example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave us, that a person, he is being offered money, but he's not doing it for the money. He said, I don't want your money, I want it only for Allah. He said, only help me with your manpower, but I don't want your money. And now, because he built that wall, to this day that wall is still standing. And the wall is such that فَمَسْطَاعُوا وَأَن يَظْهَرُوهُ وَمَسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقْبًا. The Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they were unable to traverse over it, nor were they able to dig through it. That's how good of a wall he built. And that wall is still standing today. Wherever that wall is, we don't know. There's a difference of opinion, but wherever that wall may be, Dhul Qarnayn, he saved this people from the fasad, from the chaos that Ya'juj and Ma'juj were bringing onto them. And from that day until today, all the good deeds that these people were able to do, all the good that they were able to do because they didn't have their lives and their wealth threatened, Dhul Qarnayn gets the reward for that. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us a live example that until the Day of Judgment, one of the signs of the Day of Judgment is that this wall will collapse and Ya'juj and Ma'juj will spread out into the world and wreak havoc everywhere. So until now, this wall is still standing. And Dhul Qarnayn, from however many centuries ago he lived, or however many millennia ago he lived, until today, all the good that these people are doing, Dhul Qarnayn, in his grave, he's getting the reward. He has that passive income. And until the Day of Judgment, he will remain getting that reward. So we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables us to have such investments, so that on the Day of Judgment, we will be happy with Allah and Allah will be happy with us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم ارزقنا علما نافعا اللهم ارزقنا علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وشفاء من كل داء. صلى الله تعالى على رسوله خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا